medical science.
It's a case of mind over matter on an all-new Forensic Files, Wednesday at 9 on Court TV.
Welcome back. Today is the day, folks. Opening statements set to begin in a little over an hour in a Santa Maria courtroom in the Michael Jackson child molestation case. Presiding over all of it, Judge Rodney Melville. Believe me, he is no Judge Ito. He runs a tight ship in that courtroom. Let's take a look at this background report on the judge filed by Court TV's Diane Diamond.
Outside the courthouse, the cameras record Michael Jackson's every move. But from inside the courtroom, the only thing you'll see is this. The reason for the no-camera rule is 63-year-old Judge Rodney Melville. He's also responsible for the strict gag order on everyone involved in the case.
I have no further comment.
And for those reams of blacked-out court papers, hundreds of even the most routine court documents redacted and sealed. Judge Melville says he's ordered all the secrecy to protect Michael Jackson's right to a fair trial, a move that does not surprise local lawyers.
He wants to make sure that this case doesn't have to get retried again because we have a tainted jury pool by misinformation or too much information being given out ahead of the trial. He's a very common sense oriented judge.
The word wise is often used to describe the soft-spoken judge. He is so well respected in Santa Barbara County's Superior Court, he was chosen as the presiding judge over all others. And nearly everyone agrees Judge Melville was the best choice to sit on the Michael Jackson case. From the start, Judge Melville has refused to tolerate any of the antics Jackson has displayed in other courts, like the first morning when Jackson showed up half an hour late and got a dressing down from the judge.
He's very firm. He has a good sense of humor that can take the edge off tense moments, but he takes control of the courtroom. There's no mistake as to who's in charge of a particular trial, and this case is no exception.
Judge Melville has earned the admiration of so many, not only for how he conducts himself in trials, but also for how he faced up to his inner demons.
Let's learn from the local faces of addiction.
In 2001, he appeared on a local TV program revealing his lifelong struggle with alcohol. It was an emotional appearance and one Judge Melville agreed to allow us to show again.
I managed to have my first drink on a Boy Scout trip when some of the other Boy Scouts were drinking. And we did drink in the church group too. And the first time I had a drink, I knew right away that I liked alcohol. It was hot, it was straight, and but it did something to me that made me feel more important.
Melville was able to control his drinking as a student at UC Hastings College of Law.
I was very, very poor. I didn't have much money, and that stopped the development of my alcoholism. So it was really after I got out of law school and was practicing law that my alcoholism really developed. I can remember explaining to my wife on numerous occasions that the reason I was late and the reason I was drunk was I was out there doing what I should be doing, meeting important people and making deals and getting clients.
He was a successful attorney, but eventually Melville admits booze took over his life.
It struck me that I was an alcoholic. And Santa Barbara County had an alcohol counselor at that time. So just in case I was mistaken, I called the alcohol counselor and asked to meet out of town. And I met her in Salt so that nobody in Santa Maria would know that I was an alcoholic. And I was relieved of the compulsion to drink, and I've never drank.
Melville used his first-hand knowledge to help establish the Clean and Sober Court, a firm but compassionate form of justice for addicts, a move so appreciated by local probation officers, they honored Melville as Judge of the Year. Now, Judge Rodney Melville reigns over the most visible child molestation trial the world has ever seen. And while he has a significant and important body of work behind him, it is this case history will remember.
Diane Diamond, I'm so intrigued by the words of Judge Melville on that local television show that you show in your report. Of course, the irony is not lost on me either. Here he is presiding over a trial where Michael Jackson is accused of giving a young boy alcohol. Now, I would think that Judge Melville is not going to look kindly at that.
And not only a young boy, alcohol, but his younger brother, and he is a surviving cancer patient, a 4th stage cancer patient with only 1 kidney, no spleen. So, you know, Judge Melville has just completely intrigued me here as I've covered this story. The word heard most often about him here, and I've talked to lots of local attorneys, is wise and then fair. There's been so many instances here where there's been a tough call to make, and he always stops and thinks about it. He doesn't shoot from the hip, and then he always explains why he's decided the way he's decided. For example, on the so-called 1108 motion, the past bad acts of Michael Jackson as they are alleged by the state, he hasn't ruled on whether or not those can come in. And the reason why, briefly, Lisa, is because he said he once presided over a sexual abuse case. He allowed 1108 evidence to come in, and the prosecutor took that past bad act information, presented it in the beginning of the case, and then by the time they got to what the person was actually charged with, he said, the evidence was so weak, I realized that I had helped perpetuate a miscarriage of justice. So I declared a mistrial. We gave the man another trial. So Judge Melville is not beyond admitting his own mistakes. Yeah. He first set this trial for September. We're going to do it in September, and then he realized that they just couldn't possibly. So again, he's not beyond admitting his own mistakes.
And it sounds very much
a real character
like
strength.
his ruling that you were describing on Friday, where he's going to allow in the JCPenney's information against the accuser's side, but limit it because it doesn't want that to take over the trial either. Well, let me bring in a couple of guests joining us from outside the courthouse with you, Diane. Neil Levinson is a criminal defense attorney and a former prosecutor, and joining us as well, Alec Rose, a criminal defense attorney in that jurisdiction as well. Alec, excuse me, let me begin with you. There are a number of unindicted co-conspirators in this case, people who are alleged to have helped Michael Jackson falsely imprison the family, prevent them from reporting charges of child molestation. Why aren't these folks indicted? Why not bring them all down and charge them and let the chips fall where they may?
Well, the prosecution may have a few different theories here. One is that they might be trying to talk one of these co-conspirators into becoming prosecution witnesses. The other is that it may just be a plan to make it look like Michael Jackson is surrounded by this team of kooks who are just doing all kinds of crazy things, like whisking a child off to Brazil or whatever.
All right. Well, Neil, let me get you to weigh in on this as well, because do you think the defense is going to argue this is all about the district attorney's vendetta against Michael Jackson? Only Michael Jackson is charged, even though others are accused of crimes as well.
Well, I think Alex's point is well made, that this is going to be a broad, they're going to be sweeping with a broad brush here. They're going to be making it look as though Michael Jackson has a group of people around him who protect him and who are part of his scheme, if you will, to make sure that he is protected. I really think that's what's going on here.
Well, I got to tell you, though, I think if the prosecution had charged them, they could have hoped to get at least one of them to flip, give good evidence to the prosecution against Michael Jackson. That did not happen. Only one person is on trial beginning today. Opening statements set to begin in a little over half an hour, and that, of course, is superstar Michael Jackson. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Was a bad cover-up for homicide.
Wednesday, he has one chance to crack the case no one else could. The Devil's Courthouse on The Investigators. All new Wednesday at 10, right here on Court TV.
Artistic Cutters is a full-service salon and day spa, offering facials, massage, hair, makeup, skin care, and nail care such as spa manicures and pedicures. Everything from head to toe. With over 45 private rooms and 60 employees, Artistic Cutters is the perfect choice to pamper yourself and your bridal party to help relax and look your best on your special day.
To see this wedding professionals video showcase, watch Down the Aisle exclusively on Charter Communications Channel 10.
This is an important notice for diabetics. Great news. Now, if you control your diabetes with the diabetic pill, insulin, or diet and exercise, you may be able to receive your supplies at no cost to you. That's right, no cost to you. Call right now for details.
You may be eligible to receive your supplies at no cost to you.
If you're on Medicare or have private insurance, you may eliminate your out-of-pocket expense. Call the Diabetic Service Foundation right now for important details.
1-800-507-8804.
For your child's disabilities caused by a medical mistake,
call America's leading lawyers at 1-800-777-4000. Find out if your child's disabilities could have been prevented.
Caring for a child with cerebral palsy, mental retardation, Erb's palsy, and other serious disabilities can be costly and overwhelming.
Call America's leading lawyers at 1-800-777-4000. Get the compensation you need to help care for your child.
1-800-777-4000. Call now.
Getting two for the price of one is always a great deal. But when you can get two custom-made digital hearing aids for the price of one, now that sounds great. It's Miracle Ear's 2-for-1 sale, now through March 30th. Buy one digital hearing aid for just $990 and get the second one absolutely free. This offer is exclusively at Miracle Ear. Visit one of our 1,000 locations, including many in Sears stores, or call 1-888-504-4411 for the store nearest you. But hurry, this sale ends March 30th.
When you struggle with credit card bills every month, you're not just in debt. Debt is all around you.
I see people every day that are on the brink. They're going to go over the edge, and at the bottom is a bankruptcy, and we pull them back, and they appreciate it.
You do get to consolidate your payments. You don't have to worry about making one payment a month instead of making 3, 4, or 5.
The people who provide Care One credit counseling services know how to help you get out of debt and get on with your life.
Care One Debt Management Program. It is your path out.
People are truly amazed when they call us and they see what we can do to help them. I mean, the relief in their voice is just, it makes the job worthwhile.
And so my advice is don't struggle with it. Look for a solution today.
Call us because we can do amazing things.
Gather up your bills and talk to the people who can help, to the people who care. Call or visit online for Care One credit counseling today.
Care One for you.
Tonight at 9, it's a full hour of Forensic Files followed by Psychic Detectives at 10. And at 10:30, Solve the Case on iDetective.
I would like to thank the fans around the world for your love and your support from every corner of the earth. My family, who's been very supportive, my brother Randy, who's been incredible. I want to thank the community of Santa Maria. I want you to know that I love the community of Santa Maria very much. It's my community. I love the people. I will always love the people. My children were born in this community. My home is in this community. I will always love this community from the bottom of my heart. That's why I moved here. Thank you very much.
Well, he may love the community of Santa Maria, but as Diane Diamond has told us, his children were not, in fact, born there. Perhaps a little slip of the tongue. Diane Diamond, Michael Jackson's family has rallied to his support. Are they there this morning?
Well, nobody is here yet this morning. We expect him probably about 10 past the hour. That's when he usually comes here, unless, of course, he has the flu. To this morning, we are expecting, according to some fan club sources of mine, his mother, Katherine Jackson, will be here. 3 of his brothers, Jermaine, Jackie, and Randy, who is so very close to him now. I think he just practically lives at Neverland. Maybe LaToya and maybe Janet. His father is said to be on business over in Europe now, so we don't expect the dad here today.
All right, Diana, what about on the accuser's side of things? Is the accuser, his brother, his sister, his mother, his stepfather, are they showing up day to day? Do we expect them?
No, of course not, because they're all going to be witnesses. I did notice on the witness list, as we expected, the very first will be Martin Bashir, then a crisis management person that Michael Jackson hired for a short time, then a couple of police officers, and the first family member to be called will be this young accuser's older sister. She's about 19 years old now, and of course she also visited at Neverland Ranch when he did, although she didn't stay in the main house. She and her mother and her father, when he was there in the picture, they all stayed in a guest quarters away from the main house. But she's going to be the first family member up.
Neil Levinson, let me go to you because you practice in that jurisdiction. Opening statements are set to begin. They are not opening arguments, as people on other networks sometimes say falsely. Opening statements, it is a recitation of the facts. It is not supposed to be an argument. That's left for closing. If you're doing the opening on the behalf of the defense, what are the strongest points that you're going to make?
Well, the strongest points I'm going to make on behalf of the defense are that, and first of all, I think even though there isn't argument allowed during opening statement, there is a lot of license to tell a story.
Yes.
And as a defense attorney, I think the story to be told here is that the victim's mother in this case, and the victim are not entirely truthful here, and that there's information that's going to come out at this trial that establishes that they're not exactly telling the truth.
So go after their credibility. Yeah, go after it and attack it hard. And you're right. Steve Rabinowitz, let me bring you in because we crafty trial attorneys know we're not supposed to be making an argument. And whenever I was doing an opening statement, when I felt myself on the verge of doing something argumentative, I would say, the evidence will show, right? Isn't that the buzz phrase that you feel that you're safe? The evidence will show, the evidence will show.
That's the trick. And there's also a tradition among attorneys that you don't object during an opening statement. That usually you give the other side a chance to speak. And we'll see whether that tradition is violated.
Well, that's a great point. And Diane Diamond, you know, this is the battle of the Toms. Tom Sneddon, the elected DA, Tom Mesereau, outstanding criminal defense attorney. How are they getting along? Do you think they're going to be jumping up and down objecting during each other's openings?
I think Tom Mesereau will say things that will cause the prosecution to jump up and say objection. I do. These two started off as perfect gentlemen, and over the months of pretrial hearings here, they really took off after it on Friday. For example, Tom Mesereau, right away on Friday, this day full of, I think it was 20-plus motions to be decided, Tom Mesereau said to the court, Your Honor, we don't want to call them the Doe family anymore. We want to use their name. They've hired a representative who has gone on ABC television and has used their name, so we should be able to use their name. And boy, the prosecution jumped up and said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Tom Sneddon left the room. He made a phone call, presumably to the family, and he came back and he said, Your Honor, Tom Mesereau is being disingenuous. The family has not hired a public relations person. They will never hire a public relations person. And it seemed like Tom Mesereau had been caught in a little fib there. But the judge said, we're going to call them the Doe family. Mesereau kept after it. He said, well, you know, the mother is not a minor. The mother is not alleging that she's a sexual abuse victim. And the judge held up his hand and he said, Mr. Mesereau, don't go there. Sit down. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of argument back and forth, and this judge has already proven that he can keep them in line.
Interesting, Diane. It seems to be the new trend in sexual abuse cases and high-profile cases, the defense asking that the accuser be named, and we saw that in the Kobe Bryant case. We saw that in the Paul Shanley case as well. Please stand by. A lot more to talk about. Neil Levinson, criminal defense attorney, please come back and join us soon. I know we have to let you go. Thank you for joining us today. It's time now to check in at the Court TV News Center, where Jean Casares is standing by with an update on the day's legal news.
Good morning. I'm Jean Casares with the latest from the Court TV News Center. Iraqi police now say 110 people are dead in a gruesome suicide bombing in Hila, south of Baghdad. The blast appears to have targeted a crowd of police and National Guard recruits waiting for physicals outside of a clinic. It was so powerful it nearly vaporized the suicide bomber's car. And Iraqis are welcoming the capture of Saddam Hussein's half-brother, along with 29 other officials from the deposed regime. Iraqi authorities are crediting Syria with the capture, which is seen as a goodwill gesture. Saddam's brother was number 36 on the list of the 55 most wanted Iraqis. The man suspected of being the BTK serial killer could have a hearing before a judge in Kansas as early as today. Dennis Rader has reportedly confessed to 6 killings he is accused of carrying out. The district attorney refuses to comment. Rader, a 59-year-old father of 2, has been linked to 10 deaths between 1974 and 1991. He is currently being held on a $10 million bond. Authorities in Florida are still searching for the missing 9-year-old girl, Jessica Lunsford. Yesterday, hundreds of volunteers ignored heavy rain and a tornado watch to search for Jessica in the woods near her home. The 9-year-old was last seen Wednesday night in her bedroom. Her father says he discovered her missing the next morning. Police say a door at the home was unlocked. And police over the weekend stood watch over the home once shared by Scott and Lacey Peterson. That after Lacey Peterson's mother angrily confronted Scott Peterson's family as they hauled furniture and other belongings from the vacant house. The Petersons loaded the truck and then left. Neighbors reported a loud argument between Lacey Peterson's mother, Sharon Rocha, and Scott Peterson's mother, Jackie Peterson, and his brother, John. No arrests were made. And finally, closing arguments are scheduled for Wednesday in the trial of Robert Blake. The former Beretta star is accused of fatally shooting his wife nearly 4 years ago. Testimony in the case ended Friday. A camera will be allowed in the courtroom for closing arguments, and Court TV will bring you live coverage again starting Wednesday. That is the latest from the Court TV News Center. I'm Jean Casares. Open Court with Lisa Bloom continues right after this short break.
Did you know you can experience symptoms of menopause as early as your 30s? It's called perimenopause. So take the Estroven Perimenopause Quiz. Feeling irritable, unexplained moodiness, lack of energy, even occasional sleeplessness? If you can say yes to some of these questions, it might be a good time to try Estroven. Estroven is the health supplement for women to help reduce the symptoms of perimenopause naturally, effectively, without drugs. Take the Perimenopause Quiz at estroven.com. Don't wait till menopause to get Estroven.
Years ago, I allowed a family to visit and spend some time at Neverland. Neverland is my home. I allowed this family into my home because they told me their son was ill with cancer and needed my help. Through the years, I have helped thousands of children who are ill or in distress. These events have caused a nightmare for my family, my children, and me. I never intend to place myself in so vulnerable a position ever again. I love my community, and I have great faith in our justice system.
That's a bit of the statement that Michael Jackson posted on his website recently. As his child molestation trial begins today, so too does the test of Jackson's faith in our criminal justice system. In just about an hour, all parties are scheduled to return to a Santa Maria, California courtroom. The 12 jurors and 8 alternates will finally begin hearing opening statements, and then testimony will begin. Jackson is charged with 10 counts ranging from committing a lewd act upon a child to conspiracy. He has denied all the charges against him. Steve Rabinowitz, let me go to you. Put on a prosecution hat for me, if you would. You're a former prosecutor. What are the strongest points you're going to hit if you're doing the opening statement for the prosecution?
You're just going to lay out the whole lifestyle of Neverland, all the bizarre things that Jackson doesn't deny, that people sleep in his bed with him, the children there all the time, the evidence that was recovered in terms of the child pornography and other kinds of pornography that was all over the house apparently. Those kinds of things that aren't even in dispute, I think, are the things they're going to lead off with. And then they're going to tell the story. They're going to tell, in, I think, great detail, the story of what happened there.
And I think certainly the boy and his younger brother are going to be the key witnesses in this case. Alec Rose, let me go out to you. One of the toughest decisions I think the defense is going to have to make is how to handle this boy, now 15 years old, and his younger brother. If they really go on the attack on cross-examination, isn't that going to backfire?
Well, it can. It really, their opportunity here is to bring the attack through the attack on the mother. If they can get in this evidence about the mother coaching the children in the J.C. Penney's case to lie, if they can get in evidence that this boy was trotted around town to fundraisers to pay for medical care that was covered by Kaiser, then they can show that the mother is the manipulator who makes the boy do these things.
But Alec, we know, and clearly the defense knows, that the boy, in fact, has changed his story to some extent. For example, the number of incidents alleged has changed from 5 to 7. I think there are now 4 incidents alleged. And I'm sure that the defense is going to hit him hard with those changes in his own story, aren't they?
Well, they are, and then they aren't, because what the prosecution's going to probably do is have some kind of expert on child abuse accommodation syndrome, who's
Right.
going to explain that these small inconsistencies, and they're going to claim that they're small, are just part of being abused.
Right.
What the defense is then going to show is you put on this expert to say this so that what you can argue is the less credible your accuser sounds, the more credible he really is.
And you know, that's a great point, because we just watched the case of the defrocked priest Paul Shanley. You know, his accuser changed his story a number of times. Even in the middle of the trial, one of the charges was dropped because he says he couldn't remember one of the incidents of molestation that had been alleged. And it was a repressed memory case. Nevertheless, Stephen, as I go to you on this, nevertheless, the jury came back with a conviction. And that shows me that juries are willing to believe a credible accuser, even when the story changes. Even if a memory is fuzzy. If they believe him, they're going to come back with a conviction.
Well, and there's such a thing as too much consistency. If the story hangs together a little too well, then it doesn't seem to be
Sounds
true.
pat.
And I think that's something the defense is going to do too. They're going to point out that the family of the accused seems like they might have gotten their story straight, because there's just too many things that match up a little bit too well, is what the defense is going to say.
And you know, Diane Diamond, one of the problems that the prosecution has is that the accuser was under the influence of alcohol during some of these incidents, and I know that he testified in front of the grand jury that his memory was fuzzy as to some of these events.
Yeah, he openly admitted that he talked about the number of molestation allegations, the number of incidents, and then he said, you know, it's sort of like remembering back to kindergarten. I think I remember 3 other times, but I really don't know. But the ace in the hole for the prosecution, from the prosecution side anyway, is that they have his younger brother, who has told the grand jury under sworn oath that he came into the bedroom area of Michael Jackson, up a stairway to the loft area where the bed is, and he actually saw 2 acts of molestation. Now, that's what the young boy will say.
Yeah.
You can bet that he'll be vigorously cross-examined. Let me just tell you about your repressed memory discussion there. There are some people that are talking about this boy having a repressed memory. That's really not the case. All of this is alleged to have occurred in February of 2003. February, March, April, May, June. About 4 months later, he was taken to a psychologist, Dr. Stanley Katz, and he revealed during sessions with the doctor. So that's not really repressed memory in my dictionary. Repressed memory is like years ago and I suddenly remembered it.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't mean to say that it was repressed memory. What I was making an analogy, basically, to a case where there was a controversial theory of repressed memory. In this case, the boy, his story has changed.
Say that, though.
Sure.
About this boy, and it's just not the case.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's an important clarification. Thank you, Diane. All right, Alec Rose, criminal defense attorney, joining us from outside the courthouse. Thank you for chiming in with your thoughts today here on Open Court, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to take a short break. More coverage of the Michael Jackson case. Don't go away.
Tomorrow, it's Tuesday with 2 episodes of Masterminds back to back. First at 10, a swindle so insane it must be Crazy Eddie, the biggest thief on TV.
Millions in the bedrooms, ceilings, safe deposit boxes.
Then at 10:30, incredible adventures of the world's greatest drug smuggler and his top secret superplane.
He was the Federal Express of the drug business.
Back to back Masterminds, tomorrow starting at 10, right here on Court TV.
With lots of great deals, get more out of now with a new Dell. Like this complete Dimension desktop with an Intel Celeron processor. It's yours for only $399. Plus, get a free flat panel upgrade. Notebooks start at just $599. But you better hurry. These offers end March 2nd. It's only a click or call away. Get more out of now. Dell PCs use Intel Celeron processors.
Thank you for calling ADT Security Services. This is Angela.
I just wanted you to know that security system has saved me twice since I've had it.
You all have given me peace of mind. ADT has always been there for me.
I tell everybody I see, get an ADT security system.
Like these customers and millions more, you too can feel more secure with ADT in your home. A single ADT system can help protect your family from burglary, fire, and carbon monoxide. Call now and save over $100 off the regular price when you buy ADT's family package. You may even save up to 20% off your homeowner's insurance. And with ADT, trained professionals help watch out for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You saved my life.
No wonder more Americans choose ADT than any other security services company. So call now and save over $100 off the regular price when you buy ADT's family package. And you may save up to 20% off your homeowner's insurance. ADT, always there.
Hey, here's Bob, the host with the most, you might say. And here's his buddy, Tom. Looks like Tom could use a little help. So Bob did the buddy thing and told Tom to call and order Enzyte, the effective, reliable way to natural male enhancement. Well, Tom got his Enzyte, and look at him now. Yes, in just a few short weeks, he's stepping large and laughing easy. Call or go online now to get a free sample pack of Enzyte. Enzyte, the once daily tablet for natural male enhancement. This is Bob. Bob is playing well. That's because not long ago, Bob decided to go big time. New clothes, new clubs, and a call to Enzyte, the effective, reliable way to natural male enhancement. And in just a few short weeks, Bob has a big new swing of confidence, a little well-earned respect, and a very happy partner back at the clubhouse. Call or go online now to get a free sample pack of Enzyte. Enzyte, the once daily tablet for natural male enhancement.
Wednesday on an all-new Forensic Files. A case so baffling cops don't know who to believe.
It defied common sense. It defied human behavior.
An eyewitness claims it's murder in the first.
He actually heard some moaning sounds coming from over the fence.
But the suspect swears he was sleepwalking.
I wasn't aware that I was even doing that.
Can brainwave analysis help investigators uncover the truth?
The secrets of the mind, the last frontier of medical science.
It's a case of mind over matter on an all-new Forensic Files. Wednesday at 9 on Court TV.
Welcome back. Opening statements are set to begin shortly in the Michael Jackson child molestation trial out of Santa Maria, California. Swirling around the case are other accusations and other cases on both sides. Tom Mesereau had this to say recently about other lawsuits filed against Michael Jackson.
Mr. Jackson has been a target of frivolous lawsuits throughout his career. To date, well over 1,000 ridiculous lawsuits have been filed or threatened against Mr. Jackson for all kinds of reasons by those who sought to obtain money by exploiting his achievements and love for people. None of these claims involved allegations that he ever harmed a child. However, they involve, for the most part, creative and outrageous attempts to take money from Mr. Jackson. Throughout his career, Mr. Jackson's desire to create and help our world has been subjected to efforts to exploit, undermine, and take advantage of this wonderful human being.
You know, I love the spin that the defense puts on these other lawsuits. Diane Diamond, we've got a couple of other lawsuits floating around out here. First of all, on the accuser's side, as you know, the lawsuit against JCPenney's settled for $137,000. Now, when I was practicing law out there in California on the civil side, a six-figure settlement is considered a win. It's not considered a frivolous lawsuit, and there's no way in my mind that a large company like JCPenney's, well represented, would have paid six figures unless there was some substantial evidence on the plaintiff's side, or unless they were completely deluded and defrauded by something that went on the plaintiff's side, and I guess that's what's being alleged now. But certainly, for someone like Tom Mesereau to call that a frivolous lawsuit, or to call cases against Michael Jackson, which were settled in the multi-millions of dollars, frivolous lawsuits, that really astounds me.
Well, it did me the day that he said it. I was standing out there by what we call the big green monster. It's a big green tarp, and we all gather there when someone's going to make a statement. And I was surprised the day he said it. I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room here, Lisa. What he's talking about are two lawsuits that Michael Jackson settled, one in excess of $25 million with the first boy back in 1993. The settlement came in January of '94, and a little reported settlement that happened in December of '94, $2.1 million paid out to a former maid and her young son. Now, that maid and her young son are on the witness list. The boy from 1993 is on the witness list, as are several members of his family. Whether or not the judge will allow them to come in here and testify, we don't know. But to dismiss 25 plus 2, $27 million worth of payouts, I thought it was a little disingenuous, to use Tom Sneddon's phrase, of him to say that about another member, another officer of the court.
Well, I like that you say
Michael Jackson had great representation during that big payout. Johnny Cochran, Burt Fields, Howard Weitzman. These are not people who can be bamboozled into, paying out millions of dollars for nothing.
Well, that's a great point, Diane, and I like how you say let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about it, Steve Rabinowitz. Excuse me, because Michael Jackson lost, even though there was not a trial, there was not an adjudication. When you're paying out millions of dollars, that's a loss. The accuser's family, they won. They got a six-figure settlement. Why can't we call that a win and a loss? And how is it that defense attorneys can come forward 10 years later and say these are frivolous lawsuits?
Because they don't have a choice. What are they going to say? They can't say, well, we lost and he did it that time, but he didn't do it this time. They've got to stay on their theme. And if you repeat something that's disingenuous often enough, a jury might just believe it. And clearly their theme here is that this accusation is motivated by money.
Yeah.
And they're going to beat that drum every time they get the chance to.
And we know, Diane, that in 2002, Michael Jackson had another lawsuit that was filed against him that went to trial. That was Marcel Avram, a business manager of Michael Jackson's. Jackson testified in that case. There was a judgment against Jackson, i.e., he lost again to the tune of over $5 million. Do you think that's another one of the frivolous lawsuits that Mesereau is alluding to?
Well, maybe, but you know what most interests me about that Marcel Avram case is the way Michael Jackson behaved when he was put on the stand. If you remember those photographs of him in the courtroom making devil horns as he spoke and, tittering behind his hands and actually in the middle of testimony leaning over and asking the court reporter for one of her Jolly Rancher candies. I mean, I hope if he does take the stand here, as Tom Mesereau has alluded, that he be given a little course in court decorum, because that's not going to fly with this judge.
I'm surprised that the judge didn't really come down on him hard when he behaved that way in court back in 2002. But as you say, Diane, different judge, different court. I know Melville would not stand for that. Diane, on a more serious note, there is a grandmother in that jurisdiction who claims that she was moved out of her hospital bed because of Michael Jackson's claims that he had the flu. The grandmother passed away and the family is hopping mad.
Oh, they are. It's the Ruiz family. This woman, I don't have my direct notes with me, but she has like 20 grandchildren, 26 great-grandchildren. She had a heart attack, and she was in the trauma center over here in the local hospital, in the big room with the big respirator. And when Michael Jackson came in, the allegation is that the hospital staff moved her out off the respirator onto a hand-operated respirator. I'm assuming it's one with like the big bulb. And she had 2 more heart attacks and passed away after that. Now, look, she was 79 years old. Perhaps she was going to die anyway, but there is I think there's going to be a lawsuit filed. It hasn't been filed yet, as far as I know, against the hospital. I would imagine they have a lot of attorneys working over last weekend trying to decide what to pay this family to make a lawsuit not occur. It was pretty egregious if it happened the way the family says so.
And is there a claim that the family intends to make against Michael Jackson?
Well, it's unclear. They said in the local paper that when Michael Jackson showed up with his flu-like symptoms, he came with an entourage of 20 to 30 people. 20 to 30 people? I'm not. I haven't seen that many people around him here at the court.
Yeah,
but
don't you keep
anyway,
people away
so
from you when you have the flu ordinarily?
But arm's length, man. Anyway, they apparently all came into this trauma room, and it became so crowded with Michael Jackson and his entourage that they had to move the elderly heart patient out, and that's what they allege. So now, is Michael Jackson culpable? I don't know. I would imagine he probably has deeper pockets than the hospital.
Right. Stephen Rabinowitz, I don't see a claim against Michael Jackson. If the hospital made a poor choice, they're responsible, but not the patient, right?
I agree, but as Diane points out, he has the deeper pockets, so a lawyer is probably going to try to find a way to drag Michael Jackson.
Talk about frivolous lawsuits. Maybe they got one there if indeed it is filed, and what a tragedy. Diane Diamond, thank you so much for that report. I know you're going to continue to report throughout the day for us here today on Court TV. And Steve Rabinowitz,
now I get to go into the court.
Yeah, she's going to be in the court. She's going to be out of the court. We're going to be all over this case, and somehow Diane will be everywhere. And as I said, she never sleeps. And Steve Rabinowitz, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights.
Pleasure.
Just terrific. And this about wraps up my time with you for today. It's time now to check in with Jamie Floyd, find out what's coming up next. Hey, Jamie.
Hello, Lisa. Well, of course, more Michael Jackson, because this is a case you just can't get enough of. And actually, this is one of those days at Court TV where we've got so much of a good thing, because our case that we've been covering for you out of Idaho, the Sarah Johnson case, has riveting testimony today as well. Sarah Johnson's brother expected to take the witness stand and testify against her. So we will be juggling those things for you right here on Trial Heat. I'll be joined by Jack Ford today, Lisa.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Well, we'll get back to you and Jack Ford in just a minute then. I'm Lisa Bloom. I will be back here tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for Trial Heat.
Tuesday, March 15th, reality TV, meet Court TV.
You're gonna have to lift yourself up.
Impossible heists. The danger is real, the heists are real, and the lions are hungry. It's expert versus expert in an all-new series.
We got 1 minute.
You don't just win the prize.
Don't move.
You steal it.
Go!
The most dangerous hour on television. Impossible Heists premieres Tuesday, March 15th, only on Court TV.
When we were younger, we didn't care about the price of prescription drugs. But somewhere along the way, I developed diabetes. And now we're very concerned about the price of prescription drugs. That's why we'd like to tell you about Free Medicine Direct.
If you're not covered by insurance, you might be eligible to get all your medications free.
Drugs like Lipitor, Glucophage, and even Viagra.
I know it's hard to believe, but this is the real deal. And if you spend more than $50 a month on prescription drugs like we do, then you should call now to see if you're eligible.
I have a medical condition that costs me about $200 a month in prescription drugs. I was feeling overwhelmed. Then I saw an ad for Free Medicine Direct. I called right then, and now all my prescriptions are free.
I was prescribed a medication that I couldn't possibly afford without Free Medicine Direct. I just don't understand how people without a prescription plan could possibly afford their own prescriptions.
Find out if you or your family are eligible to receive all your medications free. Call now.
Pain is about intensity. For mild arthritis or back pain, rub on one thin layer of Theragesic cream. For stronger pain relief, apply a second or third. Theragesic puts you in control. Get lights out pain relief with Theragesic and new Theragesic Plus.
She has a secret. He has a secret. They all have a secret. Now we're blowing the lid off the best body-shaping, calorie-burning secret weapon in America with the multi-million-selling Gazelle.
If you would have told me 3 years ago that I'd be sitting here today saying that I lost over 115 pounds, I would have thought you were crazy.
Burn total body calories, tone total body muscle with virtually no impact. Now new for 2005, it's the Gazelle Super Trainer with more features, more results, and more fun than ever before. Call now and for just $14.95, test drive the Gazelle Super Trainer for 30 days. But wait, take advantage of this TV offer and shipping is free. You save almost $35. Your Super Trainer features quick change power pistons that adjust easily for beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Experience the fun and energy of Super Trainer's Soft Glide technology. Each Super Trainer comes with a 5-year bumper-to-bumper parts warranty. Discover the secret to getting in shape and losing weight with the Gazelle Super Trainer.
This free DVD shows you how Bowflex's Tread Climber lets you burn calories in half the time it takes on other equipment. Call for yours right now. You need to see this free DVD. Tread Climber lets me get an amazingly effective cardio workout in 30 minutes. It's the walking action of a treadmill with the stepping movement of an elliptical. It's really easy to do. Call right now for your free DVD. It shows you why the Bowflex Tread Climber burns calories and works your heart faster and easier than any other cardio product on the market today.
Can we have a dog, Dad?
No.
Can we have a dog, Dad?
No.
Can we have a dog, Dad?
No.
Can we have a dog, Dad?
Ask your mother.
Can we have a dog, Dad?
Oh, all right.
Yay!
Tonight at 9, it's a full hour of Forensic Files followed by Psychic Detectives at 10. And at 10:30, Solve the Case on iDetective.
Once he topped the charts as the king of pop, today Michael Jackson is getting top billing in a California courtroom where opening statements are set to begin in his child molestation case. Good morning and welcome to Trial Heat and our special report on Michael Jackson's trial. I'm Jamie Floyd.
And I'm Jack Ford. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. Well, as we've told you, Michael Jackson accused of molesting a cancer-stricken young man, 13-year-old boy, and then, according to prosecutors, conspiring to keep him and his family from getting in touch with the authorities. Well, the opening statements on that trial are supposed to get started this morning, and Court TV's Savannah Guthrie is part of our team outside of the courthouse now covering, and she joins us now outside of the courthouse. Savannah, good morning.
Good morning, Jack.
All right, let's talk about what's going to take place today. This trial has been anticipated, greatly anticipated, over the 2 years or so since the complaints were filed. And now today, opening statements are supposed to take place. Tell us first, has Michael Jackson arrived? And if he has anybody been with him?
He hasn't arrived yet, but it's my understanding he's literally minutes away, and he'll pull up right behind me with his entourage, and we expect some family members to be here. What I'm hearing is that his mother will be in attendance, that 3 of his brothers, Jermaine, Randy, and who else? Jermaine, Randy, and Jackie will be here. There's a possibility we'll see LaToya Jackson, Janet Jackson. You know, what we don't see a lot of are fans. There were about 50 fans here this morning, and there's a public lottery for seats, and most of the fans got in and actually are going to be in the courtroom, and we'll see opening statements today. So we're just a couple of minutes away from the Michael Jackson arrival. We should be able to bring it to you live.
Certainly the crowd, or the absence of a crowd that you just described to us, I think must be surprising to most people, especially given the throngs that had gathered early on in the court proceeding. Has it been a surprise to everybody?
I think it has. You know, even as recently as Friday, there was talk that there were going to be busloads of fans, people brought in. We certainly all remember the arraignment, which was January 16th of last year, when there were, you know, hundreds of fans, and he jumped on top of the SUV and danced a little bit for them. And I think people were somewhat expecting that kind of a scene today, but that's not what we see. You know, Jack, I was here at the courthouse last night kind of getting the lay of the land, and there was one fan here walking up and down by himself on the street with a picket sign saying, you know, Michael Jackson is innocent. And I thought, oh, this is a sign of the things to come. But in the end, there weren't that many more fans. This morning, just about 50 or so people showed up to support Michael Jackson.
Although, Savannah, with that witness list that Michael Jackson has proffered, we may see fans of some other people showing up down the road. Who are some of those witnesses he wants to call, and what does our team think they might have to say about the charges?
Well, you know, some of these witnesses are a little bit of a mystery, but you're right, it's kind of a who's who. I mean, we have Corey Feldman, who's the child star that had a friendship with Michael Jackson. He's on the witness list. Larry King is on the witness list. Ed Bradley of 60 Minutes is on the witness list. I can tell you that's because he did an interview with Michael Jackson, a portion of which the prosecutors are going to play before the jurors, so that explains his presence there. A couple of illusionists, Uri Geller, David Blaine, people that are friends of Michael Jackson. Elizabeth Taylor's on the list. Kobe Bryant's on the list. Jay Leno's on the list. Some of these people may be character witnesses. Others might have some information about the accuser and his family. Remember, it's the defense's contention that the accuser's family was kind of going after celebrities, trying to bilk them, trying to get money, you know, because of their sympathies for this poor cancer-stricken boy. So maybe the defense will bring these people on because they've had some interaction with the family. But in some ways, it's kind of a mystery. And people like Jay Leno have said, I don't know why I'm on this witness list.
Many of the folks on the witness list have had legal troubles of their own, and that may be a positive or a negative, depending on what Michael Jackson is calling them for. The first witness, I believe, Savannah, is Martin Bashir. Correct me if I'm wrong, and he has become a celebrity of sorts, a celebrity journalist, as some of our colleagues have come to be known. And can you explain his significance? It's quite significant, his testimony, isn't it?
in some ways, he's really the center of the case. The fact of the matter is, it's the prosecution's theory of the case that this single catastrophic event was this Martin Bashir documentary. You know, Martin Bashir was given about 7-8 months inside Michael Jackson's compound. He traveled with him, he lived with him, he had several sit-down interviews with him, went shopping with him, met his children, and his documentary ended up being quite damaging to Michael Jackson, not just because of what we all know, his appearance with the accuser, and the accuser was, you know, resting his head on his shoulder and holding his hand, and Michael Jackson acknowledged that he slept with little boys all the time. He said it was perfectly innocent, very sweet, very charming. Martin Bashir had a different take, and he will be the very first witness.
Savannah, we're watching now a live shot of what appears to be the vehicle that's bringing Michael Jackson to the courthouse right now. At least it's similar to one that he's traveled in the past. We have an aide or an assistant there with an umbrella, and we're going to be watching as we continue to talk with you here. But as we're waiting for what we believe to be Michael Jackson to emerge from the vehicle to head inside the courtroom, give us a sense how long the observers out there, the people who are covering the trial, anticipate the opening statements are going to take?
You know, it will definitely take all of today, and it may actually go into tomorrow. Now, remember, we have sort of an abbreviated court day from 8:30 to 2:30, no lunch break, but 3 10-minute breaks in between. I think Tom Sneddon will probably go 2-3 hours, and Mesereau's indicated he'll do about the same. But depending on, you know, if there's delays this morning, if we don't start right at 8:30, it could spill into tomorrow.
What's been the logic behind the judge's decision to essentially compact this court date that you mentioned, go from 8:30 to 2:30 rather than traditional where you see 9 to perhaps 12 or 12:30, an hour for lunch, and then back until about 4 or 4:30? Why are they doing it?
Well, I think this is a judge who does not like to waste judicial resources. He's extremely efficient, and I think he feels like a long lunch break in the middle of the day isn't as productive as trying to get everybody in there, giving them the so-called comfort breaks, but just getting the show on the road, not having a long lunch break. Everybody's always tired after lunch, and you've covered trials. You know how it is. After lunch, people aren't as attentive, and I think he's just, his thought is then the jurors can also have a life in the afternoon, take care of business. A lot of them have children. For him, it's just a better way of working. And I've done other trials where judges have kept a schedule like this, and it works well.
It's actually not. I tried a case one time for about 6 months, and the judge did the same thing, figuring I'm going to give jurors time, and it actually worked out fairly well. Savannah, we're again taking a look now, live shot of some of the members of the Jackson team. You can see Michael Jackson now waving to the people who were, as you mentioned, standing outside of the fence right now. Dressed in what has become, for him, fairly traditional garb for his court appearances. Has the band on the right arm sleeve that he's had now, shifting to a shot from inside the vestibule here, as the members of the family are heading inside of the courtroom now. This is where the security area is, and you can see that family members coming through, friends coming through, and some of his much smaller entourage than we've seen in the past. Savannah, again, and as we've said in the past, we've seen him arriving with large groups, large followings, large entourage. Seems to be certainly a distinct difference in his arrivals at the courthouse. Is it believed that that's part of the defense approach here, a defense strategy in a sense to downplay the megastar aura that has surrounded Michael Jackson?
I think there's no question that Judge Melville was not amused at the antics at the arraignment. This was also pre-Thomas Mesereau. This is when he had Mark Garagos as an attorney. When Mesereau got on board, for whatever reason, Michael Jackson sort of pulled his act together, and he's been, his demeanor in court, I think, has been very appropriate, and there isn't this big scene around him as there was. Now, for one thing, in jury selection, there were very few seats in the courtroom. So even if he wanted to have several members of his family, the fact of the matter was there was no room for them. My understanding is that we've seen Katherine Jackson, his mother, she's here, and one of the brothers. Those are the family sightings we have so far. So I think that you see him more subdued, taking it very seriously, writing notes, and just having a demeanor that befits the seriousness of what he's going through.
And indeed, we did just see him arrive with his mother and his brother. I believe it was Jackie, hard to see because there was somewhat of a crowd at the security area, but it looked like Jackie Jackson with him. So the small entourage, and as you and Jack have pointed out, and coming with your mother, I mean, that's the best thing you can do as a defendant. You want your mother on your side. But there has been the issue, Savannah, about his attire. Even written about in the New York Times, whether or not he's making the right choice as a defendant to continue to dress as a celebrity pop icon. And it may seem frivolous, but in any trial, there's a good deal of discussion with criminal defense attorneys and their clients about what to wear. And here, clearly, Michael Jackson has made the choice to continue to dress in his, as Jack called it, his traditional way. What have you heard about that there, and how do you think that will play with this jury?
Well, you know, I think that even his attire to some degree has been downplayed a little bit. I mean, you don't see him in all white as we did see in an earlier court date, and then all of his family was in white. I mean, so we don't see that sort of joint dressing. On the other hand, you know, it's Michael Jackson. He can't run away from that. If he showed up in a Brooks Brothers suit, that might not be terribly real for him. He has to, you know, be true to himself. And so I think that what they've tried to do is kind of just split the difference between being really flamboyant and having some kind of outrageous outfits that would be distracting, but still being true to the fact that he is a celebrity. He's a musician. He's Michael Jackson. You know, maybe it wouldn't make so much sense for him to show up in a polo shirt and, you know, khakis. That just wouldn't really fit his image.
Well, although today, Savannah, he is wearing what appears to be a sheriff's badge. Now, I could be wrong. We could only see it from afar, but it looks like a sheriff's badge on one side of his lapel. And so, you know, I'm not sure what that message is supposed to be to the jury, but I think you're correct. And even if he were to put on the khakis and the polo shirt, he's still got the face. So he's still Michael Jackson. And I don't know, Jack, is that something you've discussed with clients, what to wear, or do we make too much of that?
No, I don't think we do, because I think you're always dealing with juror expectations. I remember at one point in time being involved in what was essentially a mob trial and talking with a client about what you're supposed to wear so you don't look like one of the Sopranos. Sopranos wasn't on the air at the time, but you know, you have to.
That's a great example,
sure.
actually. The mob trial scenario is that's the classic.
I mean, there are jury expectations, and you, certainly as a defense lawyer, have to be aware of them and then make some decisions. But we'll talk a little bit more about that all coming up. As we said to you, now the opening statements are scheduled to get started a little bit more than a half hour or so outside in that courtroom out in California. We have a lot that we're going to be doing for you today on Court TV. We're going to be heading back live inside the courtroom in Boise, Idaho very shortly for our continuing coverage of the double murder trial of Sarah Johnson, charged with the shooting death of both of her parents. A great deal coming up. We're going to take a quick break, however, come back. Much more for you. Stay with us.
Tomorrow, it's Tuesday with 2 episodes of Masterminds back to back. First at 10, a swindle so insane it must be Crazy Eddie, the biggest thief on TV.
Millions in the bedrooms, ceilings, safe deposit boxes.
Then at 10:30, incredible adventures of the world's greatest drug smuggler and his top secret super plane.
He was the Federal Express of the drug business.
Back to back Masterminds, tomorrow starting at 10, right here on Court TV.
Honey, does this make me look fat?
You betcha.
In the time it takes to pull out the sleeper sofa, you could save hundreds on car insurance. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Can your glue do this or this? Wonder Glue can, but it won't save you any money on car insurance.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Why haven't you called Geico?
OxyClean, the stain specialist. What's your laundry challenge?
How about this fruit juice stain on my son's shirt?
Juice is no match for OxyClean. Let's make it really messy.
Cool.
OxyClean seeks out stains and works right before your eyes. It gets the stains out.
Very cool. I've got spaghetti sauce on this tablecloth.
Put the power of OxyClean right on the mess. Look how it works like magic on that tough grease. Add a scoop to every load and see for yourself. OxyClean, I guarantee it.
Hey, are you watching regular cable? Then it's time you called Dish Network Satellite TV. Why call Dish Network? Because 100% digital delivery gives you way better quality, value, choice, and control. Let's start with quality. Unlike cable, where only some of the channels are digital, Dish Network is 100% digital, right to your home, giving you a remarkably clear and bright picture. And the sound is pretty amazing, too. Switch to Dish Network Satellite TV, where you can get your favorite channels, including local channels, for about $1 a day. Want choices? Well, call now and choose from dozens of entertainment packages, including HDTV. Best of all, there's no equipment to buy and no Dish Network commitment. Call Dish Network now and get satellite TV in the whole house. That's right, watch 4 different shows on 4 different TVs. That's the best value in America. With our personalized on-screen guide, you can quickly find your favorite shows, create a favorites list, and of course, parental locks. Want even more control? Call Dish Network and get the Dish Player DVR, which allows you to pause and replay live TV. Yes, you can also digitally record hours and hours of your favorite shows without videotapes. And you know what? Our customers think we're pretty cool too. Call now and get the best television quality, value, choice, and control with Dish Network Satellite TV.
Wednesday, a case so baffling cops don't know who to believe. Can brainwave analysis uncover the truth?
The secrets of the mind, the last frontier of medical science.
It's a case of mind over matter on an all-new Forensic Files. Wednesday at 9 on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV's Trial Heat. I'm Jamie Floyd. You are looking at the arrival of Michael Jackson on the first day of opening statements. He arrived just a few moments ago to that California courtroom. You can hear his fans, perhaps not the numbers we expected, but you can hear them there in the background. And it is raining, so perhaps that affects the fan base. And our Savannah Guthrie told us earlier that many of the fans who arrived this morning managed to find seats in the courtroom. You can see there Michael Jackson's mother in the blue suit. And behind him, if you take a really close look, I believe that's his brother Jackie. There are so many brothers that even our tried and true reporter had to consult her list to see which ones we might expect today. A big family, the Jackson family, but as our reporters, as our correspondent Savannah Guthrie has pointed out, and Jack and I were talking about earlier, decisions are made about how to appear in a courtroom. A big entourage, maybe not the best thing for Michael Jackson. Isn't that right, Savannah Guthrie?
Well, that's right. And I think that to the extent possible, this judge and these lawyers want to treat Michael Jackson as any other defendant, to the extent possible. I mean, I say that, and it's kind of funny because we're sitting here in the parking lot of a courthouse that is just filled with media. I mean, this courthouse has basically been taken over by fans, by media. This is obviously no ordinary case. But inside that courtroom, this judge has expressed every indication that he will treat Michael Jackson as any defendant that comes into his courtroom. So the antics have really got to be downplayed, and I think Mesereau seems to have won over his client, or at least shown him the light as far as behaving appropriately in the courtroom. You know, obviously Jackson was involved in some prior litigation where he took the stand and he was doing the horns over his head and asked the court reporter, "Can I have one of your Jolly Ranchers?" and kind of misbehaving a little bit, and I don't think we're going to see that Michael Jackson inside the courtroom, not if Tom Mesereau can help it.
Now you and our team will be the eyes and ears in that courtroom, and that's a wonderful reminder because, of course, we're seeing the antics outside, and no matter how hard he tries to downplay it, he's still a huge star. The question, though, about the substance, Savannah, is what exactly do we expect the attorneys to say today? I mean, this really is the first day of substance. We had jury selection, of course, but now our coverage in earnest begins. It's a big day at Court TV, and do we have any sense of what might actually be in those opening statements beyond Michael Jackson's celebrity?
Well, I think this is where we're going to see the meat on the bones of this case. Everybody knows sort of the skeleton. There's a young boy, he's stricken with cancer, who Michael Jackson is accused of molesting, but now we're going to hear the details of that. I think that the prosecutors are really going to focus on that Bashir documentary because in some ways it's the Rosetta Stone. It really, if you see it, the whole case through that light of, this little boy appears in this documentary with Michael Jackson, and it ignites a firestorm, and it, according to the prosecutors, pushes the Jackson team and the men around him into high gear, and that they immediately start conspiring, according to the prosecutors, to basically control and isolate this family, bringing them, first of all, to Miami because they wanted them to shoot a press conference, which never happened, then bringing them back to Neverland. The mother will say that they weren't permitted to leave, that they were threatened with their very lives, that these men that were surrounding Jackson, these unindicted co-conspirators, told them, we can make your parents disappear, we can make the kids disappear. Just heavy-handed treatment by the Jackson camp. What's so interesting about the prosecution case, and I think we're going to hear this from the defense very significantly, is that according to the prosecutors themselves, Michael Jackson did not molest this child until well after the documentary aired in this country. So you have to believe that at the very moment the lights were shining most harshly on Michael Jackson, that is the moment he chooses to start molesting this boy. And I think the defense is going to hit very hard on that because it frankly doesn't have a lot of common sense appeal. Why then? Why would Michael Jackson do that? Prosecutors will probably take that on in the opening statement as well.
I think you're right, Savannah. Certainly, it's one of the factors you can expect the defense to stress during the course of certainly their opening and during the course of the trial here. To talk about some of the things that are going to happen inside of that courtroom, we've got as our guest today a good friend of mine from many years back, Jack Furlong, who's a former prosecutor and a prominent criminal defense attorney. And Jack, let me bring you into the conversation that Jamie and Savannah were actually having just a few moments ago. Michael Jackson is iconic. People are used to seeing him in certain attire, acting in certain ways. Now, if you're his attorney, you've got to bring him inside a court of law where he's on trial for some very, very serious charges here. How do you want him to dress? How do you want him to behave so that it works best for his defense here?
Somehow I knew you were going to ask me that question because I've represented, I'm afraid to admit, probably more than my fair share of accused sex offenders. And sex offenders, for those who have read Blink or have an understanding of instinctive reaction, tend to be identified by jurors, police officers, lay people, anybody. The guy walks into my office, sometimes the secretary will turn to me and say, he's the one. He's the sex offender. They sometimes have a certain eccentric kind of look. And as you rightfully pointed out before, or as Oscar Wilde said about 100 years ago, in matters of substance, style is everything. So my conditions of representation typically are, look, you can make tactical choices about your defense after I explain to you what's going on. But in the day-to-day, or excuse me, strategic choices, but in the day-to-day tactical decisions, you either listen to me or I'm not your lawyer. Rule number one, if you're trying to portray your guy as a common sense thinking guy who would not molest a child after a documentary is released, common sense wouldn't dictate that you come in with an umbrella in the sun. I mean, today, at least the good news is it's raining out, so the umbrella has a little more resonance. I would have put him, I think it was Savannah who said, don't go for the Brooks Brothers suit. I'd be going for the Brooks Brothers suit. I'd be putting him in button-down shirts. I'd be putting him in straight or rep ties. I'd be dressing about the way I'm dressed right now. In any event, I'd be having him sit at the table, shut up. I might even ask that he get a haircut, maybe cut down on the makeup a little bit as long as his nose doesn't fall off. I'd do whatever I had to do to normalize him in the eyes of the jury. That's what I'd be looking for.
But I guess the question is, what's normal for Michael Jackson? I don't mean
no, I
don't mean to attack him in that sense.
Sure.
But as you know, and you and I've talked about this over the years, there are jury expectations. Yep. And if they think here's our defendant, it's Michael Jackson, and he walks in, as we talked about before, looking completely different, 180 degrees away from what they're used to. Would you be concerned then that some jurors might start saying, you know what, they're trying to pull something over us on here. They are trying to recreate this guy in front of us, and I'm not so sure I appreciate that.
And that's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm very sensitive to the concept of people trying to change their appearance in order to literally suggest that there's a false identification. If you're Scott Peterson, you suddenly go out not blonde and goateed after having been dark-haired and clean-shaven for the previous 30 years of your life, people are going to say, what's up with that? It's not like I'm talking about remaking, well, I guess I can't talk about plastic surgery, but the long and the short of it is you want to make some effort to suggest that that on-screen, on-video persona, on-stage persona is that. It's an acting role. In my everyday life, I understand that I'm in some serious, serious trouble here. I've been accused of an infamous crime, and I'm taking it seriously. Joking around with a court reporter, waving to the fans is not going to do you any good. You have to take a very measured, professional, serious approach to the defense of these charges, because if you're not taking it seriously, I assure you the jury is going to take it seriously.
And from experience, I think we all know these are the conversations that they must be having and must have had on the Michael Jackson team, perhaps even a debate within the camp about how Michael Jackson should present himself in that courtroom. Jack Furlong is going to stay with us. This Michael Jackson special will continue in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. We want you to vote first as our 13th juror. Today we're asking, can Michael Jackson get a fair trial? So far, 76% of you think he can. You're voting yes. 24% say no. You can cast your vote by logging on to CoreTV.com. Stay right with us. We'll be right back with more Michael Jackson.
The accident was a bad cover-up for a homicide.
Wednesday, he has one chance to crack the case no one else could. The Devil's Courthouse on The Investigators. All new Wednesday at 10, right here on Court TV.